when Patricia opened her eyes and she did not immediately realize what had happened. Next to her, she saw the bound Archduke. Did she give in to her desires and kidnap the Archduke after all? Patricia first met the Archduke when she was 14 years old. It was at a debutante ball, a place filled with the hopes and dreams of the young and noble. That evening, Patricia hoped to meet a handsome and young man. She dreamed of starting a relationship similar to those described in love novels. There was an extraordinary excitement in the hall. The Grand Archduke Glenn Lennox had arrived at the palace. He was young and very handsome. Seeing the Archduke descending the stairs, Patricia froze in admiration. At that moment, the Archduke was 18 years old. He had inherited the title a year before, so he was treated according to his status. That day, Patricia fell in love with the Archduke unconsciously. She was the kind of person who could fall in love at first sight. Whenever she saw the Archduke, her heart began to flutter. For the next 7 years, she persistently fantasized about him. Almost every day, the girl went to the garden, sat under her favorite spreading tree, and drew another portrait of the Archduke. There were days when the Archduke rode past the girl on his snow-white horse. Each time, Patricia would see him off with an admiring look. Only family members and close friends knew of her secret love for the Archduke. Over time, Patricia's room was filled with all sorts of portraits of Glenn. His image was even embroidered on the girl's sofa cushions. My lover is everywhere, and that's just fine. Why do I need a husband when I can get by like this? Although my parents aren't desperate to find a candidate for my heart, I don't want to marry anyone. Patricia exclaimed and clutched the pillow with the image of the Archduke tightly to her. "Are you drowning in your fantasies again?" asked Marina, who entered the room. "Marina, you know that drawing portraits of the Archduke, writing fanfics about dating him, brings me extraordinary joy." Patricia replied to the girl and hugged her friend tightly. "Did you ever think that if you keep doing that, you'll grow old alone?" Marina asked. "Why am I going to be alone? I have a family and a younger brother, Kasyan," replied the girl to her friend. "Well, if I remember correctly, your little brother doesn't like you. Or has something changed in the time I wasn't here?" Marina asked. Marina gave her bag to Patricia and asked the girl to take care of her. Marina needed to go away for a few hours. The bag contained dangerous things. Marina asked her friend not to open the bag under any circumstances. Marina knew magic and studied at the Academy of the Empire's capital. She was also a student at the Academy of the Empire's capital, and her hometown was far away from her studies. Patricia couldn't take her eyes off her friend's bag. She was extremely curious about what was inside. "I think Marina just decided to scare me. She's never brought a dangerous substance into the house before. It wouldn't be a big deal if I took one look in her bag." Patricia justified herself. As soon as the girl opened the bag, a large black pearl rolled out. The girl wanted to put the pearl back in her bag, but it slipped out of her hands. The pearl fell to the floor tiles with a clatter and shattered into small pieces. Now Marina was sitting on the floor near the bed on which the bound Archduke lay. Most likely, it was the pearl that had brought about this situation. "Mrs. Patricia, why are you so upset?" Glenn asked unexpectedly. Hearing his words, the girl finally realized the horror of what was happening. First, it was unlikely that his kidnapping would end well for Patricia. The Archduke would probably punish her severely. Secondly, the Archduke is already wanted by his family and close friends. If they see the girl's room hung with the Grand Duke's drawings, they are likely to react violently, to say the least. Patricia hurriedly untied Glenn's hands. "I really am a piece of trash since I was able to hurt the Grand Duke. His wrists are really something," Patricia thought as she freed the Archduke's hands. "Come on, there's no need to get so upset. Nothing terrible happened. To be honest, I even enjoyed being tied up," the Archduke said to the girl and gently stroked her head. "Your lordship, you know you've been kidnapped, right? I am your visitor," the girl confessed. "Patricia, you shouldn't be afraid of your feelings. I know you've liked me for a long time," said Glenn and kissed the girl's hand gently. Patricia began to be frightened by the situation. She didn't understand whether it was real or a figment of her imagination. I wonder when the Duke saw the wall hung with drawings of himself, what did he think of? Probably that he'd been kidnapped by an admirer, so he's pretending to be kind to stall for time. Patricia decided to herself. Still, what a shame! I still managed to sneak the Duke out and drag him to my room. What am I supposed to say to him now? How do I explain what happened? I only wanted to admire him from afar, to keep the image of a well-mannered lady in his mind. Now I look like a mad fanatic in the prince's eyes. I must explain myself to the Archduke as soon as possible. Archduke, the reason you were kidnapped is because I absolutely did not want it. It was an unfortunate mistake. I accidentally broke a bead and found myself in the same room as you. Patricia began to explain the situation. The girl did not fully understand what the bead actually was and what magical power it possessed. Because of her obsession with the Duke, Patricia never had a serious relationship. The girl constantly dreamed that their feelings would be mutual. Only now she realized that she will never be together with the Archduke. They have absolutely different status and social position. You mean to tell me that you broke your wizard friend's strange black bead, after which you were enveloped in strange smoke and passed out? And when you came to, you realized I was lying tied up next to you? Do you expect me to believe this nonsense? But I have to hand it to you. I could never have made up such a ridiculous thing. Smiling cheerfully, the prince said to the girl. Patricia really wanted to turn back time. If she could go back in time, she would never open Marina's purse. She wanted to go back to her old life, not be here in the same room with the Duke. If the Archduke didn't forgive her, she was likely to be imprisoned, or worse, executed. This upset the girl so much that tears ran down her cheeks. Glenn reached up to the girl's face and brought the tears out of her eyes. "Patricia, no need to cry. Everything will be all right," said the Archduke and hugged the girl tightly. "Duke, why are you being so nice to me? I kidnapped you, didn't I? I mean, I didn't mean to, but I did. It's all that Black Pearl's fault." Swallowing back tears, Patricia explained. "The fact that you kidnapped me has already been dealt with. But what are you going to do next? My knights are about to arrive here and take you into custody," said the Archduke to the girl. "But you can still change things for the better for yourself. The only way out is to become my favorite." The Archduke gently took the girl's hands. "Do you wish me to be another one of your girlfriends?" Patricia clarified. "Well, don't you want it yourself?" Question after question, the Duke answered. The girl realized that the Duke was offering her to be a temporary plaything for him. He would never offer her to be his wife or his bride. Such an offer was insulting to Patricia. The Duke's family owns half the imperial territories. He is as powerful as the emperor himself. Rumor has it that the Duke is going to marry a princess of a neighboring state. It is she who will become his official spouse. The Duke will only amuse himself with me, and when he gets tired of me, he will throw me away. He realizes I can't refuse him in this situation. Kidnapping is an execution in this country. Patricia thought sadly. "Okay, I agree to your offer, but we'll draw up a contract. If we sign our deal, we can easily work things out in the future. We need to work out all the details beforehand," Patricia suggested. "You want a contract? It turns out you don't want to build a serious relationship with me?" the Archduke asked the girl. "What kind of serious relationship are we talking about? That's not what you're offering me. Or am I misunderstanding something?" the girl asked, surprised. "Okay, since you want to make a contract, that's what we'll do. I suggest we make it for a year." After a little thought, the prince agreed. "You're doing a great job, Patricia." The Duke praised the girl and gently stroked her head. Since they were now in a relationship, Glenn decided to address the girl in a respectful manner. Patricia was surprised by the change in the Duke's behavior. He used to look like a sculpture made of ice. He was even nicknamed Ice Nobleman. Patricia's peers really liked this type of character. The Archduke, Patricia knew, rarely smiled. He was not at all friendly. Surprisingly, the Archduke was extremely kind and favorable to the girl today. Could it be because of Marina's magic item? Were these sudden outbursts of feeling under the influence of the pearl? So, have you figured out what we're going to do next? The Archduke asked the girl with a sly smile. Glenn, I want to ask you something. When you first saw my bedroom, what did you think of? That question kept Patricia's mind at ease. When I saw all those paintings in your room, I knew immediately that you liked me madly. In a casual voice, the prince replied to the girl, What about a love contract? How far will our relationship go? Will we hold hands, hug, or even kiss? Asked the girl the next questions that troubled her. I don't know. What do you want? The Duke asked the girl in a gentle voice. Me? I never thought of that. I think a hug would be enough, Patricia replied. You see, after all, we have a contract with you. Roughly speaking, we are in a relationship. We will communicate with you, but we will officially remain free. It's perfectly normal between partners in a relationship to hug and kiss and everything else. Glenn explained his position. Patricia, may I kiss you? Suddenly, the Duke drew the girl to him. If our relationship progresses rapidly, that I promise I will marry you. The Duke kissed the embarrassed girl on the lips. Patricia couldn't believe it was really happening. She never dreamed that one day she would kiss the Duke for real. Patricia, how long have you liked me? The Archduke asked the girl. Archduke, you are like something unattainable to me. At first, it was an innocent first crush, but then it escalated, Patricia confessed. The girl did not want to tell the Duke that she had been dreaming about him for 7 years without ceasing. Patricia, I hope you feel comfortable around me. The Duke kissed the girl's hand. I propose we make our relationship official. The first thing we'll do is tell your parents. Suddenly there was a noise in the yard. Patricia ran to the window and opened the curtains. In the courtyard of her house, a number of men had gathered. They were holding a flag bearing the coat of arms of Archduke Glenn Lennox. Look at that! My knights managed to find me after all, the Archduke exclaimed, also going to the window. Since the Archduke was naked to the waist, the girl hurried to her younger brother's room to borrow a shirt from him. Since Glenn and Cassian's physiques were similar, the shirt fit the Archduke perfectly. Patricia had nothing to fear now. If the Archduke's knights broke into her room, she would say that she hadn't kidnapped Glenn, but had simply brought him to her room. But when you think about it, that's not a good option either. A single girl bringing a single man into her bedroom. Patricia realized that by getting involved with Glenn, she was ruining her reputation. When her contract expired in a year, she would be unlikely to marry a decent man. She would probably spend the rest of her life living in her parents' house. Patricia, don't worry so much. You'll soon get used to the situation. Glenn noticed the girl's distressed face, so he hurried to comfort her. If you hadn't kidnapped me, you would have been able to live a normal life. I'm sorry. The Archduke took Patricia's hand and waited for his knights. Our miss has become a criminal? Explain to me why the Archduke is in your bedroom. An enraged butler burst into the room. I'm not a criminal. It's just that the Archduke and I had a secret rendezvous, explained the girl to the butler. What a nightmare! But how am I to look into the eyes of my lord and lady now? I am simply heartbroken. The butler wiped away the tears in his eyes with a handkerchief. There's nothing wrong with that. I've been in a relationship with the Archduke as of late. Patricia began to reassure the butler. Well, what about the rumors? Everyone knows that the Duke was going to marry a princess from a neighboring state. And you were planning to get married this year, too. The butler exclaimed in surprise. Yes, I was planning to, but I didn't specify who I was marrying. Why can't my fiancé be an Archduke? But I've already sent out your portraits. A wealthy man has taken a fancy to you, said the butler to the girl. Suddenly, Patricia heard an always loud crunch behind her. When she turned around, she saw the Archduke holding the doorknob. Your house has extremely flimsy doorknobs, the Archduke remarked in a casual voice. Patricia remembered what Cassian had told her about the Archduke the other day. It turned out that Glenn was a master swordsman and had great strength. The girl suggested that Glenn go out into the courtyard and calm his knights. She was afraid they would engage their guards in battle. Patricia, I have to tell you something. You're not just a girl to me. I want you to know that. The Archduke confessed to the girl as they descended the stairs. Archduke? Who is that next to you? Is it true what they say that you started dating that girl? And have you really decided to betray the imperial family?" The Archduke's knights exclaimed in surprise when they heard him explain what he was doing in this house. Glenn took Patricia in his arms to show those around him that they were indeed in a relationship. "How come His Majesty paid attention to you? Who are you anyway? Did you probably steal our Archduke using black magic?" the knights asked Patricia. "And what kind of black magic are we talking about now? I didn't use any magic," Patricia exclaimed. "In the entire empire, only a few magicians authorized by the Crown Prince are allowed to use black sorcery. If Patricia is found to be somehow involved in it, she and her family will be executed immediately. I can't use black magic because I'm not versed in it. I haven't had any special training. I don't even have the strength to practice swordsmanship, let alone use any magic." The girl explained to the knights. "That's the real truth. Our miss has long since abandoned sorcery. She found it quite difficult. And in the direction of the sword, the lady did not even look at it, for fencing can give her blisters." One of her guards stood up in defense of the girl. "What about the testimony of our witness who claims that your lady kidnapped His Highness?" One of the Archduke's knights asked the guard. "Have you considered that your witness might have lied?" the guard exclaimed, drawing his sword from its sheath. "Stop it! I'll explain everything in a moment." Glenn hastened to intervene. "Patricia is my girlfriend. Everything in our relationship is consensual." "Your Highness, what did you just say? Are you in a relationship with my daughter?" Lord Royd asked in surprise. "Yes, she's my girlfriend and I love her." Glenn confirmed his words. "Your Highness, you are not in your right mind. I'm sure that witch has bewitched you," exclaimed one of the knights. "Did you just call my girlfriend a witch? Are you willing to be held accountable for your words? Is your life so unprofitable to you?" In a voice ringing with anger, the Archduke spoke. The knight fell on his knees before him and begged for mercy. The Archduke promised him that as soon as they returned to the palace, he would think of a punishment for him. So she really is his lover? I can't believe Mr. Lennox could be in a relationship. So that's the kind of girl he likes. But then what about Princess Eunice? Whispered the knights amongst themselves. Would the Archduke sever their relationship unilaterally? Wasn't that a successful alliance? Fortunately, it's no longer our problem to solve, but His Highness. Definitely, this wedding would be very beneficial to both the Empire and the Archduke himself. The Archduke and Patricia went back into the house. They still had to explain themselves to the girl's parents. "Your Highness, are you just going to sit there like that?" Lord Royd asked in surprise. The Lord was embarrassed that his daughter was sitting on the Archduke's lap. "You understand, I don't want to part with my lovely bride for even a moment," explained Glenn. "Dad's right. You need to let me go. You don't have to play the loving boyfriend role so hard. You and I just made a contract." The girl whispered to the Archduke. Glenn agreed to let Patricia go. The only thing was, he wouldn't let her sit away from him. He wanted her to sit next to him. "By the way, I just noticed you're wearing my son's shirt. He loves it very much," said Lord Royd to the Archduke. "I will have this shirt thoroughly laundered and returned, and as an apology, I'll send 100 more of the same," Glenn promised. Patricia liked sitting next to the Archduke very much. She noted to herself that even when he was only drinking tea, he looked simply charming. So your Highness is in a serious relationship with our daughter?" asked Glenn's lord. "That's right, even though it's only been a week. My feelings for her are genuine." "Your Highness, I'm going to ask a slightly rude question, but what did you like so much about my sister?" Cassian asked. His brother's words made Patricia extremely angry. Was there nothing special about her? Was she so boring that she was impossible to love? "What did I like about her?" the Archduke said thoughtfully. "She's very cute. She has cute round eyes, and she blushes funny when she's embarrassed. And if she asks for something, she wiggles her face in a childish way. So everywhere you look, she's cute." "Thank you, Patricia, for a great time. I will send you a letter and a gift tomorrow morning," said the Archduke to the girl, heading towards his carriage. Patricia had absolutely no idea what gift and letter Glenn was now talking about. This was her first relationship. She urgently needed to discuss it with her friend Marina. She wondered why she still hadn't come home. Suddenly, the Archduke kissed the girl on the cheek. He explained that it was a farewell kiss. After wishing the girl good night, the Archduke got into his carriage. Back in her bedroom, Patricia clutched the pillow with Glenn's picture on it tightly. His scent was still in the room. She couldn't believe it was real. Her dream had come true. She was dating the Archduke. As promised, as soon as the Archduke returned to the palace, he immediately devised a punishment for his knight. No one was allowed to call his bride a witch. Patricia likes poetry collections and novels. But would it be enough to give just a book? Maybe she'd like a ring? Glenn asked his butler. He needed to think of a gift for the girl as soon as possible. Or though, no, you don't need an ordinary off-the-shelf ring, but a custom-made exquisite piece. Maybe a necklace or a bracelet? Nonsense. The joy of such a gift will quickly pass. It's decided. I'll get a dress, shoes, and a brooch. Glenn concluded. Aren't you afraid to give a girl shoes? There is a belief that if you give shoes to your sweetheart, she will run away from you, warned the Archduke by his butler. Patricia will never run away from me, for she likes me a lot. Glenn replied confidently to the butler. When the butler left, Glenn opened the secret drawer of his desk. From a drawer, he retrieved a small pink book. Its author was claimed to be Patricia. The girl wrote short love stories. She had taken a pseudonym for herself, Patricia Kaas. I wonder how Patricia will react when she finds out I'm reading her books. My heart is about to jump out of my chest. It's amazing, because before I met Patricia, it was so emotionless that I doubted it even existed. The Duke became acquainted with Patricia's work quite by accident. He heard the girls in the garden discussing the new author, Patricia Kaas. There on the ground, he found her book. Archduke, I never thought you were into love affairs, Marius exclaimed in surprise. I have no one but you, and you are the only person I love, said Archduke Lennox in his beautiful voice. Read aloud to Glenn a passage from the book. Can someone explain to me what this is? Why is my name written in this book? Asked the Archduke to the girls. Kevin, what kind of man do you see me as? The Archduke asked his knight one day during training. By far the strongest swordsman. And why do you ask that? The knight answered him. Glenn noticed that the people around him considered him a brave warrior and a strong swordsman. The author of the book admired him the most. He sang dithyrambs to him and described the beauty of his face endlessly. For weeks, the Archduke had been obsessed with the books of Patria Kaas. It was urgent for him to find out who was behind this pseudonym. While reading Patria Kaas's books, Duke noticed that the author is well acquainted with high society and its culture. He even knows the rules of greeting and seating. Glenn concluded that the books are written by an aristocrat. At another ball, Glenn noticed Patricia Royd. This girl kept saying hello to him and then running away. She reminded him of a frightened doe. Since the identity of the author of the books did not give Glenn rest, he decided to conduct his own personal investigation. He wanted to find the person who had written the love stories featuring him. Listening to the conversations of passers-by, the Archduke had a clue. The author of the books was using the bookworm store as an intermediary. The building was not only a store, but also a printing house. Patricia Royd entered the store. She held a large envelope in her hand. Noticing the girl, the Archduke hurriedly covered his face with a book. Miss, it's been a long time since you've been in our store. So many people have been asking about Patria Kaas's new work. How nice of you to finally bring it in, joyfully exclaimed the store owner. I wonder if this girl just brings the author's books to the store, or if she actually writes them, Glenn thought to himself. Glenn decided to follow the girl. If I remember correctly, this girl is an aristocrat. Her name is Patricia Royd. Could she be Patricia Kaas? Those names are similar to each other. Glenn pondered to himself. After the incident at the store, at subsequent balls, Glenn watched the girl incessantly. He noticed that she was rather clumsy and constantly trying to get out of his sight. What do I care about this girl? Her life is absolutely none of my business. However, in her books, our relationship is pretty sweet. Glenn thought to himself one day, At one of the balls, Glenn noticed a girl putting leftovers into a paper bag. Is she being starved at home? Does the Lord abuse his children? The Archduke followed the girl to see why she was doing this. The Archduke noticed that the girl had disappeared into the depths of the garden. Glenn noted to himself that she was contentedly fearless. This part of the garden was dangerous. There's nothing left for me to do but follow her. People rarely come here, and there's a lot of wildlife. Glenn thought to himself and drew his blade from a hidden pocket. Glenn was surprised to realize that the girl had been gathering food to feed the rabbits. Not far from where Patricia was feeding the rabbits, the Imperial Guards passed by. If they spotted the girl, she might be in trouble. Glenn climbed out of his hiding place and pulled the girl tightly against him. He asked her not to make a sound. You do realize you've infiltrated the Emperor's land, right? You are not allowed to be here, said the Archduke to the girl. Glenn realized that day that this girl was in love with him. There was admiration written in her eyes. The Archduke was surprised to note to himself that he also had warm feelings for her. He felt that the girl's presence made his heart beat frantically. Glenn invited the girl to return to the ballroom. I am the Archduke. Do you remember me? I know your name. You are young Miss Royd. You're always saying hello to me and then running away. You are very sweet and friendly, just the way I remember you, said Glenn to the girl. Thank you for helping me. It was all Patricia could manage to say. She was pleased to hear the Archduke's warm words. Glenn wanted to be near Patricia, but he had absolutely no idea how to tell her that. If he invited the girl to his reception, it would seem extremely obvious. At the moment, Glenn was in no hurry to open his feelings in front of the girl. Glenn went out into the garden to enjoy the warm evening air. Not far away, in the bushes, he heard a noise. Patricia was walking slowly toward him. The girl approached the Archduke and froze in place. The man took off his coat and threw it over Patricia's shoulders. The girl was acting rather strangely. Glenn realized that she was under the influence of black magic. Glenn knew the girl didn't have magic, so she couldn't use it. Someone else had put those spells on her. If someone used a mind-directed spell, it could have a negative effect on Patricia. We need to find out what kind of magic it is, and then deal with its effects. Glenn decided to himself. Glenn looked into the girl's eyes and concluded that she was under the curse of enchantment. This magic allows you to summon an evil spirit that attacks a specific target. Glenn decided that this type of magic was used by his old adversary, Crown Prince Arthur Asmodee. The man was afraid to challenge the Archduke openly, so he always tried to do it quietly. Archduke, I like you very much. I will always love only you. But I can't live my whole life alone, just looking at you from afar. I need to get married, too. Unexpectedly, Patricia said, and put her arms around the Archduke's neck. I want to be the only one looking at this beauty, but you're too popular. The girl confessed to Glenn. The Archduke suggested that the girl kidnap him and lock him in her room. And that's a good idea, Patricia said thoughtfully. Then I'll tie you up. From her pocket, the girl took out a small but fairly strong rope. The girl tied the Archduke's hands and led him behind her. We'll take that carriage from here. Patricia pointed to a black carriage standing by the side of the road. The Archduke didn't understand why they hadn't been stopped by the guards yet. Looking around, not far from the road, in the bushes, the Archduke spotted his knights. They were sound asleep. Patricia confessed to the Archduke that she had given the guards a candy. It was magical and had a soporific effect. When the Archduke got into the carriage, the awakened knights ran up to him. Glenn asked them not to interfere with the situation. He ordered them to find him, only a little later. What's happening now? We're not trained for this kind of situation! The knights shouted indignantly as they watched the carriage drive away. Now the Archduke is mine. With a blissful smile on her face, Patricia whispered as she led the Archduke to her room. As he crossed the threshold of the room, the Archduke froze in surprise. It seemed to him that he had entered a museum of himself. There were pictures of himself everywhere on the walls. On the bed was a pillow the size of a man. The Archduke was embroidered on it. "This is too much," flashed through the Archduke's mind. Patricia led the Archduke to the bed and tied him to the headboard. "Archduke, you look so charming. I want to draw you." Joyfully clapping her hands, exclaimed Patricia. "Archduke, your eyelashes are so long. I want them on canvas as soon as possible." "Patricia, don't you want to marry me?" Glenn asked the girl. "And how can I marry you? I know perfectly well the difference in our position. I don't want to give rise to rumors like, 'This is a girl the Archduke will play with and throw away like an unwanted toy.' Yeah, and Dad won't agree to that. You're in too high a position. To be happily married, you have to marry someone of your own level," Patricia said in a sad voice. "Well, how can you marry another man if you like me? Can you be happy in this marriage?" the Archduke asked the girl. At the same second, the spell was broken, and Patricia came to her senses. She saw the half-naked, bound Archduke and jumped back in fright. Seeing the girl's confused look, the Archduke came up with a story of a love contract. "Miss, is it true that you have been in contact with His Majesty since last week?" Maid Emma asked the girl. "Cassian told me all about it. What a parasite," Patricia thought to herself. "Miss, remember, no matter how handsome and attractive the Archduke is, he must treat you well. Do not allow him too much. You must not trust him 100%. Marina finally came home. She saw an open bag on the table. That same morning, Patricia received a letter and a beautiful bouquet of flowers from the Archduke. "His handwriting is even beautiful," Patricia exclaimed. Glenn promised Patricia to come over to her house for dinner this evening. Emma brought a box into the room. It was also a gift from Glenn. The box contained a gem-embroidered dress. "This is the first time I've seen a dress with so many gemstones. The lace is so delicate, a work of art." Patricia sighed in admiration. The butler entered the room and announced that Patricia was being summoned to his study by her father. When the girl entered her father's study, she saw a young man sitting in a chair. "I am Baron Evan Harris," the young man introduced himself. "And I know you. You're Mrs. Rockbell's cousin. I heard your name from her," rejoiced Patricia. "Patricia, please sit down. I have something to tell you. You are going on vacation today to recuperate. Baron Harris will take care of you," said Lord Royd to the girl. "And why are you sending me to rest?" "I don't want to rest. I'm not tired." Patricia was indignant. If she went on vacation, she would not be able to see the Archduke again, and she would not see him tonight. "Patricia, do you know where that black pearl you broke came from?" asked Lord Royd in surprise. Marina entered the room. She had an extremely guilty look on her face. The Lord asked Marina to tell Patricia the whole truth. "Long story short, there's a strange professor at the academy I attend. His name is Shannon, and he's often around me. It's the professor who is in close contact with Crown Prince Arthur. The latter is very interested in magic, alchemy, soul art, and puppetry. He found talented people from all over the continent and brought them together. It was Arthur who invited Keel Shannon to our city. Shannon has knowledge of black magic. He got the Emperor's consent to practice it. I think he was the one who made that pearl. What its power was used for, I don't know. I brought it into the house to at least do some research on it. I didn't touch it. As soon as I opened your bag, that pearl immediately exploded," said Patricia half-truthfully. "I think the magic contained in that pearl was directed at a specific person, maybe even me. It was you who took the pearl, so you succumbed to its charms. The effect was not strong, because it was programmed for another person." Marina summarized her story. "Be that as it may, the Crown Prince is behind all of this. He's been feuding with the Archduke for a long time. The only thing is, I don't know if it's because of personal animosity or political strife. That can be found out from the Archduke himself," said Lord Royd. "Patricia, I can see that the Archduke is expressing sympathy for you, but I still forbid you to associate with him. He is the most dangerous man I have ever seen. I can't even contradict him." The girl knew that Glenn was known behind his eyes as the youngest master of the sword, a catastrophic genius, a violent madman. It's quite possible that the Archduke pretended to be interested in you in order to clear up our relationship with the Crown Prince, said Patricia's father. The girl couldn't believe that Glenn was just toying with her. Last night he seemed very sincere. Father, are you suggesting I leave without saying goodbye? I don't think the Archduke would like that. Patricia, you've gotten yourself into something very dangerous. You need to leave as soon as possible before it's too late. The father remained adamant. He only allowed the girl to write a farewell letter to the Archduke. Her brother Kasyan came out to say goodbye to the girl. He gave her his protective amulet. Leaving her father's house, Patricia thought about the vows she had made to Glenn. She had promised him that for 1 year she would honor their love contract. Now she would not be able to fulfill her vow. The girl hoped that Glenn would forgive her for that. After reading the letter sent to Patricia, Glenn became unprecedentedly furious. Without a word, the Archduke put on his jacket and sprinted out of the study. The road was not a pleasant one for Patricia. It had rained heavily in the evening and washed out the roads, so the wheels of the carriage got stuck in the mud. The coachman suggested camping under the nearest tree. There was no way to continue the journey. Patricia climbed into the tent and wrapped herself in a warm blanket. Her body was shivering. Not even the blazing fire helped. The next morning, coming out of the tent, the girl noticed her maid Emma and Baron Therese. They were preparing breakfast together. "Good morning, Patricia. Would you like something special for breakfast?" asked the Baron to the girl. "No, what do you mean? I will eat whatever you cook." The girl was surprised that Baron Jarrus could cook. At breakfast, Patricia thought about Glenn. She hoped that after reading the letter, he believed her and understood everything correctly. A fair-haired knight joined the breakfast. Patricia remembered seeing him at a hunting competition. 7 years ago, Patricia made jewelry, like all aristocrats, to give to her loved ones. But the skill was not enough, so the girl was never able to give them to anyone. A blonde knight passing by saw the girl's distressed look and offered to give her jewelry to him. "I heard that if you receive such a gift, the competition will be successful," said the knight that day. After breakfast, it was decided to continue the journey. By evening, the whole company reached the hotel. The next day, Patricia met her uncle at the tavern. He introduced her to Viscount Alvin. Patricia realized that this meeting was no accident. Her uncle had decided to give the girl an audition. "This is our first meeting. Allow me to introduce myself to you more formally. My name is Alvin Scott. If you'll allow me, I'll call you by your first name. Or do you like being given affectionate nicknames?" asked Alvin to the girl. "To be honest, I don't think it's proper to use names and nicknames when meeting someone for the first time," Patricia admitted. She clearly didn't like this guy. "And I don't mind if you call me by my first name. In fact, they found a gold mine on my estate not too long ago, so I'm a little rich." Alvin began to brag about his money. "Sure, my family lost most of the money, but to be so boastful about wealth is overkill," the girl thought to herself. "It will be profitable for you to marry me. Surely you would like to wear not your old dresses, but your new luxurious and elegant ones. I can see that in your poor house you can't reveal yourself properly," Alvin went on to say. "Stop it! I can't hear it anymore!" Patricia shouted loudly and jumped up from her seat. The girl grabbed a glass from the table and spat its contents into Alvin's face. "Yes, my family is not rich, but not rich enough to beg. I think my uncle arranged the meeting because he plans to ask you for a loan. I know he's an avid gambler, and he's always in debt because of it." "Uncle, isn't this too much? Since there's no money, is it okay to sell your niece?" Patricia asked her relative. The enraged man swung around, intent on teaching his niece a lesson. How could that girl afford to talk to him like that? Glenn burst into the tavern and grabbed Patricia's uncle firmly by the neck. "Your Highness, you're going to kill this man!" The Archduke's frightened knights also flew into the tavern. Glenn unclenched his hand, and Patricia's uncle fell to the floor with a noise. "He's not dead, is he?" the girl asked fearfully and rushed to her uncle's side. "I'll steal you this time," leaning over the girl, said the Archduke. "You know, I like that idea," Patricia exclaimed happily. "Since you agree, let's go then," Glenn said and picked the girl up in his arms. When Patricia opened her eyes, she realized she was in a room unknown to her. Glenn walked into the room. He was wearing a bathrobe. He was probably taking a shower. The girl realized she was in the Archduke's bedroom. Glenn explained to Patricia that he had used traveling magic to get to the palace as soon as possible. Patricia fainted because of the unusual strain. "Patricia, are you okay? Do you have any pain anywhere? Any dizziness?" Glenn gently put his arm around the girl's shoulders. Without letting her say a word, the Archduke plopped the girl on the bed and lay down beside her. Patricia felt her heart racing. "Archduke, I need to tell you something." Patricia released herself from Glenn's tight embrace. "Did you get my letter? You must have been angry about my sudden departure," the girl asked. "Patricia, you're not running away from me just like that." Glenn answered the girl and pulled her against him. "Didn't you say you loved me and always will? And I remember you and I have a 1-year contract. We'll definitely be together for a year. Dear Archduke, you are my favorite person in the world. When I was 14 years old, I fell madly in love with you at the debutante ball. The black magic incident was just an accident. You will realize that when you investigate." Wiping her tears, Patricia said, "I want to assure you that my family had nothing to do with this. I like you very much. And through the power of magic, I committed kidnapping. I think that should be the end of our contractual relationship." "I really like you guys, and I want you to be happy." Sniffling, she said to the girls, "Patricia, why do you think I kidnapped you this time? Have you ever thought that I like you too? Every time I look at you and see such a sweet, gentle girl, I go crazy." Glenn put his arms around the girl and kissed her forehead. "You stupid asshole! What are you doing to this sweetest child? Quick, get your hands off her!" His mother, Isabel, burst into the Archduke's bedroom. She was a noble princess of the Elfadar Empire. "You now look like a pervert that will burn in the fires of hell!" the woman shouted angrily. "How beautiful! Were you scared much?" asked the woman as she approached Patricia. The girl reminded Isabel of a frightened porcelain doll. "Don't be afraid in this house. I won't let anyone hurt you." Isabel put her arm around the girl's shoulders and pulled her close. Isabel knew this was the girl her son liked. Glenn had often talked about her. Isabel decided to help the girl get ready for dinner. Patricia was surprised at the abundance on the table. It was obvious that she was dining with royalty. Patricia knew that when she was young, Isabel had a line of potential suitors lined up for her. But in the end, she chose an archduke who was completely unsuitable for her. "Mom, Patricia and I have decided to get married," Glenn suddenly blurted out. The surprised Patricia froze in place. She seemed to have forgotten how to breathe. She hadn't expected such a turn of events. "Of course you should get married. If you don't marry that girl, what will people think of you?" Isabel exclaimed. "But does Lord Royd know that you have brought his daughter to our house?" Isabel asked, to which her son told her that he had already sent the Lord a message. When they were finally alone together, Glenn confessed to Patricia that he had also been in love with her for 5 years. The Archduke's confession pleasantly surprised the girl. It seemed to her that she had fallen into a sweet dream. She had never even dreamed of his confession. "Patricia, will you be my wife? If I have to wait any longer for you, I'll go crazy. So I propose we get married in a week." "That fast? I didn't expect this. I thought we'd start with an engagement party. That's what all couples in love do." Embarrassed, Patricia replied, "Maybe you're right. If it goes too fast, it won't look good for our neighborhood," Glenn said thoughtfully. "Then we'll make arrangements and have the engagement within this week. Then we'll have the wedding sometime later." "You know, I still can't believe you proposed to me. It's hard for me to accept that you've liked me for years now," Patricia admitted. "I wonder if the Archduke knows of the existence of the novels that have come from my pen. Does he know that for a long time he has been the main character in my books?" Patricia thought to herself. "Patricia, I have a favor to ask of you. In future, call me by my first name. I don't think a bride should call her lover by title," asked the girl Glenn. "Listen, what was that cute kid doing in our son's bedroom?" Archduke Lucas Lennox asked his wife Isabel. Glenn and his father looked very similar, but their personalities were completely different. That girl has made a mess of our estate. But don't worry, this story will end well, soothed the consort Isabel. Are you saying that our son and this girl have some kind of relationship? How on earth did she manage to bewitch him? Lucas asked. Glenn has been the perfect child since he was a little boy. Lucas Isabel was often envied by the people around them. Glenn was perfect, almost never making mistakes. But his parents knew this child had one unpleasant trait. He didn't notice the people around him. Glenn didn't like people and was in no hurry to make friends with them. He was so cold, even the air around him became frosty. As for battles, he was insanely ruthless. His fighting ability and strength were terrifying. See, our dear son was able to find a mate after all, so let's be happy for him, Isabel said to her husband. During the following days, Isabel and Lucas simply surrounded Patricia with their care. They constantly wanted to please her with something tasty and sweet. Sometimes, it seemed as if they had set themselves the goal of fattening the girl to immense size. I'm sorry, but I think I've had enough for today. Patricia realized she didn't want any more brownies or cake. You don't have to eat everything my parents give you, Glenn said with a smile. Have you noticed our son is finally starting to smile? Isabel whispered in her spouse's ear. In the evening, Glenn came into Patricia's room and told the girl that he had found a book of her authorship. This can't be true. How did you know it was written by me? What if you're wrong? The girl asked in surprise. And I will now easily prove to you that you are the author of a book where I am the main character. Glenn was the only Archduke of the Empire and my lover. He is my life and soul. I don't want to part with him for a moment. Quoted Glenn an excerpt from the book. Stop it! Stop it! I don't want to hear it! Screamed Patricia, falling to the floor. She felt very ashamed in front of Glenn. The girl had never wanted the Archduke to read her books. You're even more reactive than I thought, Glenn said with a grin. Lord Royd received a letter from the Archduke. The latter wrote that his family would protect Patricia. The Archduke asked the Lord to come to his residence to discuss all the issues that had arisen. If he has power, he can do anything? How could he just take my sister into his house like that? I hope he didn't touch her with his dirty hands. Cassian was resentful. Son, calm down. The letter says your sister is fine. Don't worry about her. We don't care at all about the judgments we get because of our differences in status. Patricia comes first for us. Cassian was reassured by his mother. To begin with, Patricia needed to purchase a smart dress. Not only her relatives, but also the Archduke's friends would be attending her engagement party. Patricia tried on just a huge number of different options. She decided on a milk dress with open shoulders. Glenn wanted to please his future spouse, so he gave her a red diamond necklace. Glenn, are you sure I can wear this necklace? I feel like it's worth more than I'm worth myself. The girl wasn't used to such expensive jewelry. That necklace looks good on you, don't take it off. Besides, compared to you, this jewelry pales in comparison. The Archduke replied to the girl. Preparations for the engagement ceremony continued. There were only a couple of days left before the big event. The butler announced that guests would be arriving soon. Patricia's relatives were arriving at the palace. Look at the size of this place. I've heard that the residence is big, but I didn't think it was this big. It's true what they say. The atmosphere in this place is overwhelming. Marina marveled. Patricia came out of the house to greet her relatives who had arrived. She was happy to see her parents. She could not hold back her tears of joy and burst into tears on her father's chest. You bastard! You made my sister cry! Cassian ran up to Glenn and grabbed him by the scruff of the neck. Cassian, calm down! It's a misunderstanding. I like this man. Don't worry, I'm doing fine. Patricia pushed her brother away from Glenn and hugged his lover tightly. No matter what he does, I'm fine with it, said Patricia to her brother. Sister, are you really going to marry the Archduke? That man is unreliable. He will take advantage of you and leave you. Forgive me for hurting you with my words, but only I will tell you the truth, Cassian exclaimed. Brother-in-law, what are you saying? I will never leave your sister. What the hell are you talking about now? Glenn asked, surprised. give me a chance to explain everything to you. I am sincere in my intention to marry your sister. For the moment, she is under the protection of my family, and no one will dare touch her." "If you're telling the truth now, swear it," demanded Kasyan. "I swear. My life belongs to Patricia from now on," said Glenn. When all questions and disagreements were settled, Glenn and Patricia's parents introduced themselves to each other and shook hands. "Mistress Marina, is it true what I heard that you are a mage?" Isabel asked. "It would be more correct to say shaman. I'm sensitive to mana flow and can communicate with spirits. I don't want to brag, but I'm in the top 5 best shamans," replied Marina to the woman. "I have come here to demonstrate my lack of involvement with black magic. I want to assure you that I have nothing to do with Crown Prince Arthur. I also want to tell you that Patricia's family is also not involved." It turns out that not only is Patricia extremely sweet, but she also knows how to make such adorable friends. Isabel was pleased not only with Patricia's family, but also with her best friend. Isabel was extremely worried about Patricia. The girl was very tender and naive. Isabel knew that after her son's wedding, a huge scandal would break out. The girls who were previously in love with Glenn would start spreading unpleasant rumors. Isabel worried about whether her future daughter-in-law would be able to handle the gossip, rumors, and scandals that came her way. "By the way, I didn't come to you empty-handed. I brought something," Marina said and took out a small bag. From the pouch, Marina took out a black pearl and some documents. Marina explained that the black pearl is a small sphere that contains black magic. The research documents what kind of magic it is. It's the same sphere that Patricia touched. The pearl contains the magic of a cursed charm. It affects a person's anger, amplifying it. I think this orb was created by Cain Shenham. He's a mage from Arthur's entourage. After doing a little investigation, I concluded that I was the main target. Arthur wanted to use me to harm His Highness the Archduke. Arthur and his sidekick Shannon knew I was extremely curious and would definitely touch this sphere. But what they didn't expect was that I would bring the pearl into the house, and Patricia would be the first to touch it. "So our family is cleared of all charges? You no longer suspect us of treason?" Patricia asked Glenn's family. "I never expected Arthur to grow up to be so evil. While he was young, I taught him magic. Then he listened and respected me," said Isabel. "But already in those days, I began to notice that he had a different behavior from my son. He was always jealous and had a perverted love. My son's suffering gave him joy. I am only frustrated by the fact that Glenn constantly reacts to Arthur's incitement. I don't understand why you can't learn to ignore him. There's also no telling how Arthur will act when he finds out Glenn has a loved one." When dinner was over and the guests had gone to their rooms, Isabel asked Patricia if she could have some attention. "After the engagement, I'll stay with you for a few days. We'll go shopping and eat something delicious," said Isabel to Patricia. The woman wanted to protect her future daughter-in-law from possible trouble. "Of course, we'll walk through the stores with you. I'd be honored," exclaimed Patricia excitedly. The next day, Glenn invited Patricia to go for a boat ride with him. "This forest and lake belong to you? It's so great! Everything here is so huge!" Patricia shouted happily and ran towards the lake. Glenn had to catch up with the girl and stop her. He was worried that she might trip and fall. "Glenn, how come you found yourself next to me so quickly? Did you use the teleporter again?" the girl asked. "Patricia, you and I should always walk around with our arms around each other. And no, I didn't use teleportation. It's just that when one reaches master level, one's mana level increases. That's why one starts running faster than other people." In confirmation of his words, Glenn picked Patricia up in his arms and rushed her toward the lake. "I heard something like that from my brother. Do you know that he sometimes calls you a monster? But I don't believe that. You're different. You're kind," said Patricia to Glenn. Within seconds, Glenn and Patricia were already at the lake shore. Patricia and Glenn got into the boat. The man wanted to take the girl to a place he really liked. When he was a teenager, he used to come here often. Patricia scrutinized Glenn's face. I wondered what he had been like as a child. Did he also hide his feelings deep inside? Or was he an open child, always reaching out to people. There must have been some portraits of the Archduke's childhood left in the palace. I'll have to ask him to show them to me. Patricia thought to herself. The girl was amazed at the beauty of the water. It had a pleasant turquoise color. Patricia carefully dipped her hand into the water. Suddenly the boat tilted and the girl fell into the water. "Patricia!" Glenn shouted fearfully and jumped after the girl into the water. Glenn helped the girl out of the water. Luckily, she wasn't hurt. The only thing is that since the water was icy, the girl was very cold. Picking the girl up in his arms, Glenn rushed towards the palace. "Has the mistress fallen that very lake?" the servants whispered among themselves. Patricia began to wonder what the servant meant by the words, "that very lake." Glenn ordered the servants to prepare a bath and hot tea as soon as possible. After the girl warmed up, Glenn still told her what the servant had said. It turns out that people have been dying in that lake for years, but nothing terrible had happened there for 2 centuries. That lake is haunted by a spirit that likes to make contact with humans. This spirit made a contract with the Lennox family many years ago. The Archduke promised the spirit that the lake would be his home. Most likely, Patricia fell into the water because the spirit was interested in her identity. It just wanted to communicate with the girl. However, the way the spirit chose to communicate with her was not quite appropriate. Glenn also revealed that the spirit has a close relationship with his mother. Isabel is an elementalist. It is normal for these people to make contracts with spirits. Isabel, Marina, and Patricia's mother burst into the room. The women were very worried about the girl's health. Patricia had to tell them what had happened at the lake. The next day, the engagement ceremony was scheduled. Marina and Isabel helped the girl to dress. Patricia still couldn't believe that very soon she would officially become the Archduke's bride. When the girl went down to the hall, she saw just a huge number of invited guests. The girl waved to Isabel, inviting her to come over to her. "Patricia, I want to tell you that you look very beautiful today, and I am very happy that you will soon be my daughter-in-law. From the moment you arrived at our house, a smile hasn't left my face," Isabel confessed to the girl. Turning her head to the side, Patricia saw Crown Prince Arthur. Noticing the girl's eyes on him, Arthur hastened to congratulate her on her impending engagement. "I've heard a lot about you. No wonder Glenn fell in love with you since you are such a nice girl," said Arthur to the girl. "Thank you for the compliment, but you are overpraising me." Patricia lowered herself in a low bow before the Crown Prince. The girl's voice trembled with excitement. It was the first time she had seen such an influential person in front of her. "You should be so worried. Calm down. You will see me often now, and after all, Glenn and I are cousins." Arthur noticed the girl's agitation. Although Arthur spoke to the girl in a soft voice, he had a dangerous air about him. It was as if he had the scent of a poisonous flower. He only looked attractive. In fact, the consequences of dealing with him could be irreparable. The Crown Prince's aura was different from the Archduke's. If Glenn looked like a beautiful predator, Arthur looked like a poisonous snake. As soon as a man let his guard down, Arthur would strike him deadly. "And how did you meet my brother?" Arthur asked the girl. Patricia didn't want to answer that question, because Arthur knew the history of their acquaintance. Not only that, but it was because of him that Patricia had kidnapped Glenn and found herself in this situation. She was annoyed that Arthur kept pretending he didn't understand. Patricia realized that he wanted to bribe her with his charm. There were 2 camps of groupies in the Empire. Some girls favored the cold Archduke, while others admired Arthur's beauty. Many thought his golden eyes blazed like fires. Patricia belonged to the category of the first groupie. She loved Glenn's cold stare, but she'd never been attracted to the Crown Prince's beauty. "If you don't mind, I'd like to take you to the first dance." Arthur continued to smile charmingly. Glenn walked over to Patricia and pulled the girl against him. "As surprising as it may sound, you two are completely unsuited for each other," the Crown Prince said with a ringing laugh. "He's right. The Archduke and I are like heaven and earth, so we may not look good together. But why say it to his face? It sounds tactless." Patricia thought to herself. The girl's hands involuntarily clenched into fists. "Miss Royd, I feel sorry for you. Unlike Glenn, you are very kind and sincere. It would be hard for you to be around a man like that. There's just a viscous emptiness inside him that drags you down like a swamp. Arthur went on to say, Glenn's soul can be described as absolute darkness. Sometimes it can feel like you're being sucked into a hole. My soul is dark, but only for you. Glenn broke his silence, tired of hearing insults from his cousin. And by the way, I don't remember inviting you to my engagement party. Why did you come here? You and I have always had an amazing relationship. Why do you say that? As soon as I heard about your engagement, I immediately left all my business and rushed here. Arthur replied. Stop prying and don't make trouble out of nothing. Just quietly disappear, asked his brother Glenn. Huh. I came here to protect you from trouble. I'm really worried about you. I feel like you're making a mistake. Have you ever thought that this girl likes your money more than you? Laughing again, Arthur said. You announced your engagement too soon. I found out that you have known this girl for no more than 2 weeks. Also, I know that pregnancy is a reason to marry soon. Therefore, I believe my fears are well-founded. Isabel stealthily approached Arthur and slapped him on the back. Jesus, Arthur, since the last time we met, you've gotten up to be simply insufferable. How dare you say something in front of me that could damage the reputation of my son and his fiancée? Do you absolutely not care about your life? Isabel asked. Come with me. It's been so long since we've seen you. I really want to hang out with you. Isabel grabbed Arthur by the scruff of the neck and led him out of the hall. How wonderful she is. I wish I could have straightened him out myself, Patricia exclaimed with a ringing laugh. After dinner, we should be sure to thank her for her help. Patricia decided to herself. Patricia, I'm sorry. Were you hurt by the words of that bastard, Arthur? Glenn asked the girl. No, they didn't affect me at all. I'm more worried about the fact that they might have hurt you. You are my most favorite person. I want you to be happy. We're engaged now, and it's only natural to worry about each other. It's starting to scare me how affectionate you can be. Glenn confessed to the girl. Is this girl Glenn's fiancée? A gray-haired woman approached Patricia and poked her with a fan. Patricia guessed that Countess Beatrice Sotley was standing in front of her. She was the Archduke's father's aunt. Countess Sotley, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Patricia Royd. The girl bowed respectfully before the Countess. And this girl knows some of the basics of nobility. By the way, Lucas, why this sudden engagement? Beatrice asked irritably. It's simple here. These two are very much in love with each other, so they decided to legalize their relationship as soon as possible. It's all Glenn's initiative. Lucas explained to the woman. And where did he find such a young bride? Don't you think she's too young? Once again, the Countess grumbled unhappily. The Archduke's bride is our daughter. We are Damon and Annetta Royd. This is our son Cassian. Lord Royd did not like the gray-haired woman's remarks regarding their daughter. I know you're kind, and I remember that your family has been unpopular for a long time, but that's not even a bad thing. There's an authenticity to it, said the Countess. Grandmother, I'm glad you honored us with your visit. It's been a long time since we last saw you, said Glenn to the Countess. Glenn, you disappoint me. Isn't this what I taught you? You're crazy to get involved with this family. I don't want to accept your fiancé into our home. I believe that this girl should somehow prove herself. The Countess was indignant. The Countess's last words surprised Patricia. Show herself? What did this woman mean by that? And I don't think this girl has to prove to those around her that she is worthy of our family name. I know that she has some outstanding abilities. I believe that is enough. Isabel entered the room. She was clutching Crown Prince Arthur tightly to her. And what are this girl's abilities? What makes her different from the others? The Countess asked skeptically. Do I have extraordinary powers? What is Isabel talking about now? I must have lost the thread of the conversation. I've lost track of what's going on here. Patricia thought to herself dejectedly. Of course, some ability I have. I paint pictures and write novels popular with aristocrats. But does Isabel know this? Or is she alluding to something else? Is it a talent that I'm constantly getting into unpleasant situations? There's a good chance that this girl was chosen by the spirit of the family. Isabel explained her words. What are you saying? The Countess exclaimed in surprise. Me? Patricia was also surprised. This spirit hasn't chosen anyone throughout the spirit of the ages. It only befriended the Lennox family. Only Isabel was special to this spirit, and only because of her magic. The invited guests whispered amongst themselves. If it's true, then I'm extremely surprised. Why did this spirit choose not one of the family members, but a completely foreign girl? The spirit could not have chosen me. I don't have the abilities of an elementalist. There must be some mistake here, Patricia thought to herself. The Lennox family spirit is the strongest in rank in the bloodline. It's a supreme spirit with a strong ego and special preferences when choosing a person. No one knows exactly what criteria it uses to choose, but the fact that it has shown interest in Patricia is a fact, said Isabel. After the engagement ceremony is over, I plan to go to the lake and check it out. Somehow, I think that those present were extremely surprised that the family spirit chose me. Why would that be? I am aware of the fact that this spirit's power is immense, and until now, the situation didn't seem serious to me. Patricia thought to herself fearfully. Patricia, know that you are lucky. Because you were chosen by the spirit of the family, no one will dare to treat you badly. Rest assured, being chosen by the spirit is a great honor, said Patricia Glenn. Patricia, you amuse me so much. You're so natural, so genuinely surprised. You know, and I've developed an interest in her. Suddenly chuckling, Arthur said, You're here again. Why haven't you left yet? Glenn irritatedly asked his cousin. Don't be so stern. Yes, I like your fiancé. So what? Arthur asked defiantly. If you want to fight, come back a little later. There's an engagement party going on right now. You're so insolent all the time. I want to teach you a lesson right after the ceremony is over. You know how mean I can be, don't you? Said Isabel to her nephew. By the way, Glenn, you should also be more mature. How much longer are you going to let that man mock you? You're about to become a husband and you're acting like a little kid. Isabel turned to her son. Your Highness Crown Prince, I have something to say to you. Patricia decided to intervene in the conversation. It seemed to her that Arthur had misunderstood the situation. He somehow feels that he can afford to make such remarks. He thinks he is completely unpunished. Why such a formal address? You can just call me Arthur, said the Crown Prince to the girl. I will continue to refer to you as Your Highness the Crown Prince. But that's not what I want to talk to you about. More importantly, you once talked about seducing me. I'm embarrassed to say this, but I would like you to refrain from saying such things. Having other people hear things like that is not good. Besides, you have no chance of doing so. Even if you try to seduce me to spite the Archduke, it will be completely useless. Is that so? Are you firmly sure of what you're saying? The Crown Prince asked in a caustic voice. If you say so, then you and I have nothing more to communicate. We're leaving now. Patricia grabbed Glenn's arm and led him toward the exit of the hall. The girl led her fiancé out onto the balcony. There was a beautiful view of the Lennox family's garden. Here, take this candy. When you're not feeling well, you should definitely eat something sweet. Patricia held out a chocolate candy to Glenn. The girl saw that the Crown Prince's words really hurt the Archduke. He looked extremely upset. Glenn leaned over the girl and kissed her on the lips. Still, he's doing the right thing. His future spouse is a wonderful person. Thank you, Patricia. You continually show genuine concern for me. I appreciate it very much, said the Archduke to the girl. Since your spirits are up, we should head back to the hall. The ceremony isn't over yet. We still have to exchange rings. The Archduke agreed with Patricia's words. They returned to the hall and exchanged rings. Finally, the engagement ceremony was over. From that moment on, Glenn and Patricia were officially bride and groom. The ceremony is over, and I still can't believe I'm officially the Archduke's bride. It's more like a dream I don't want to wake up from, Patricia thought to herself. Now, I'm going to be the one who will be envied by the people who like him. Some of them will definitely be mean to me personally. This situation is starting to worry me. Patricia was especially concerned about the young daughter of the Marquis of Morias. This girl had put a great deal of effort into trying to marry the Archduke. The Marquis's wife also actively promoted her daughter's desires. I wonder when the Morias family finds out about our engagement, what their reaction will be. And did they come here today? Patricia wondered. On the second-floor balcony, Patricia saw the Crown Prince. Arthur was watching from the side and smiling sinisterly. Most likely, the man had come up with some insidious plan. Before the banquet began, the Lennox family, along with the guests of honor, made their way to the lake shore. Those present were extremely curious as to whether the spirit had indeed chosen Patricia. What if it turns out that I don't have the blessing of the spirit? What would happen then? Will Glenn treat me the way he did before? How will his family take it? Patricia began to worry. Isabel led the girl to the edge of the platform. The woman began to recite an incantation that Patricia did not understand. Suddenly, the water bubbled and turned sky blue in color. Afterward, a large wave rose up and froze over Patricia and Isabel. Out of the water, right into the girl's hands, popped a small ball of water. "Who is it?" Frightened, Patricia shouted. Did she really have the spirit of the Lennox family in her hands? The girl had imagined him a little differently. Patricia thought the spirit was human-like, but it was actually a water balloon with hair ears. It was bouncing vigorously from side to side. Is this some kind of joke? They're probably trying to play a joke on me. Everyone knows I like rabbits and bunnies, Patricia thought to herself irritably. Amazing. It's the first time I've ever seen such a thing. Usually spirits take on the characteristics of those they contract with. It turns out that in his case, the spirit decided to take the form of a rabbit, said Glenn, who came up to the confused girl. But we haven't made a contract with him yet, have we? This is the first time I've seen this creature. I have promised him nothing and also received nothing in return. The girl objected. Patricia didn't understand why this watery creature had chosen her. What was it about her that attracted him? Why did you drag me under the water, then? Did you want me to catch cold? Asked the girl to the spirit. The spirit did not answer her, but gave her a wan look. Patricia concluded that this was the spirit's way of showing that it was sorry for what it had done. Isabel announced to the girl that until she had a contract with the spirit, she would not be able to hear it. Then I should make a contract with him. Knowing the basics will be fine. Patricia thought to herself and gently stroked the Lennox family spirit. Suddenly, the spirit jumped out of the girl's hands and fell into the water. A blue ring appeared on Patricia's finger. The voice of the Lennox family spirit rang out. He explained that he had made this ring himself. It was given to a man when he signed a contract. Are you telling me you can read my mind? I just thought about signing a contract and you immediately put a ring on me. Patricia marveled. The spirit explained to the girl that not only could he read her mind, but he could also see her memories. But that's an invasion of privacy, Patricia exclaimed. She was extremely reluctant for the spirit to know about her years of secret love for the Archduke. It was private information and belonged to Patricia alone. The girl hurriedly removed the ring from her hand. She didn't want anyone invading her personal space. The spirit rushed to stop the girl. He promised her that he wouldn't do anything she didn't like. If that's true, I'll keep this ring, but know that if you break your promise, I'll immediately take it off, Patricia exclaimed. You should keep this ring because it's the only way I can communicate with you. It's not just a piece of jewelry. The ring acts as a mediator between me and you. The spirit explained to the girl. I have chosen you as mistress, and now you may call me by my name if you need me. My name is Undine. I promise to take care of you from this day forward, but you must also take care of me and this lake. Congratulations, Patricia. You are now mistress of the Lennox family spirit. It's an honor that only a few people get, Glenn said to the girl. Sister, I never thought you were an elementalist, Cassian exclaimed in surprise. The girl was also approached by her parents to congratulate her. I don't know how to spirit control yet, and to be honest, I have absolutely no idea how to do it, but I promise I'll do my best to learn it soon. Patricia promised the audience. After the contract with the spirit was finalized, the guests returned to the house to enjoy the holiday banquet. Patricia was hungry to the point that she couldn't think of anything else but food. Crown Prince Arthur came to the table and sat down across from the girl. He rested his hand on his chin and scrutinized the girl. "You ate so appetizingly, I just couldn't pass you by," said Arthur to the girl. "What does he want from me again? He's come again where he wasn't invited and pretends to be kind." Patricia thought to herself. Glenn couldn't come to her aid, as he was busy chatting with the guests. "I noticed that you only eat fruits and vegetables. How can you get enough of that? Let me get you something more nourishing," the Crown Prince suggested to the girl. "You don't have to look after me. If I want, I'll put the food I'm interested in on my plate myself. Don't worry, I can take care of myself," the girl replied to Arthur. Patricia quickly finished what she had on her plate and hurried off to the dance hall. She hoped to find Glenn there, or at least Isabel. As soon as Patricia entered the dance hall, someone grabbed her hand firmly. The girl thought it was the Crown Prince, so she hurried to pull his hand away. "You're Miss Royd, right?" a pretty girl asked Patricia. "I am Princess Diana, the only princess in the entire empire, the Emperor's precious daughter." The girl introduced herself. "Will you dance with me?" the princess asked Patricia. The girl happily agreed. When would she ever have the opportunity to dance with a member of the royal family again? "I'm not letting my fiancé dance with you." Suddenly, an irritated Glenn appeared next to Patricia. "You want to appropriate this girl for yourself? Has no one ever told you that you're too greedy?" Princess Diana was outraged. "I'm not greedy, it's the natural course of things. Patricia is my fiancée, and I only want her to dance with me," said Glenn and kissed Patricia on the top of her head. "Glenn, are you showing your love in public? I never thought my cousin had that side to him either," Israfel exclaimed in surprise. He was the second prince of the empire. "I never imagined that my engagement party would be attended by so many royalty," Patricia thought to herself in surprise. "Why can't I kiss my fiancé in public? It's not against the law. And by the way, I'm going to give you some advice. Don't interfere where you're not asked," Glenn said irritably. They do have a strange relationship. Glenn had gotten into fights with all of his cousins that night. You have to be able to bond with other people. Apparently Glenn's not good at it. Patricia's mind raced. "Miss Royd, what did you find attractive about Glenn?" Israfel asked the girl. "He's smart, charming, and very handsome. I don't understand how anyone could not fall in love with him at all," Patricia replied with a smile. "I like the Archduke's gentle voice and his affectionate gaze. I am madly fond of his honest words and actions," revealed the girl. "Do you think he's only gentle with you? Or does he have other ladies he also treats in a special way?" Israfel asked unexpectedly. "What is he alluding to? Is it Princess Eunice? I'd forgotten all about her. Was there really something between Glenn and Eunice? Maybe they're still in touch?" Patricia's mind whirled with just a myriad of questions. Most importantly, was Glenn as sincere with her as he said he was?